We all know the Chum Bucket is the worst diner in Bikini Bottom, so how is this place still open? Well, first off, probably got a lot to do with the name. Who chooses the name Chum Bucket in an underwater town where the majority of the citizens are fish? If you know anything about marine life, you'll know that chum is the leftover fish bits that nobody wants to eat. You know, the really nasty stuff like the heads, tails, and guts. Why would fish want to eat their own kind? That's just asking for bad business on a platter, or in a bucket in this instance. Honestly, I find it hard to imagine there are people who hate themselves enough to eat at the Chum Bucket. I mean, at one point, Plankton's wife, Karen, even bribes a fish to eat at the bucket so that Plankton will stop complaining about his lack of customers. That poor guy had to get his stomach pumped 3 times. Compared to the Krusty Krab, which is always packed with customers, the Chum Bucket is a barren wasteland. Nobody goes in there unless there's seriously no other option. So why is Plankton trying so hard to make this place work? He's literally just setting himself up to get squished. I think if you want to understand why Plankton is so determined to keep it going, you have to look into his past. And one of the most important figures in his past is his rival, Mr. Krabs. Have you ever noticed how in the episode SpongeBob's Last Stand, Mr. Krabs uses the nickname Shelly for Plankton, short for Sheldon? Guess what? Mr. Krabs and Plankton used to be childhood best friends. Generation after generation of Krabs and Planktons have hated each other, literally. But when Eugene Krabs and Sheldon Plankton were growing up, they were inseparable. These two first met in a nursery at the age of 3. Weirdly enough, both Plankton and Mr. Krabs were born on the same day. What made these two such fast friends, and how did it turn so sour? To answer these questions, we'll have to dive into their pasts. In elementary school, Eugene Harold Krabs and Sheldon Plankton were the ultimate duo of bullied kids with no friends. Plankton was the tiniest but the brightest in class, while Krabs was the poorest. The ringleader of the bullies, Billy, loved picking on Krabs, giving him the nickname Rag Boy because of his hand-me-down shabby clothes. Now, how does all this tie into what's going on with the Chum Bucket? I got 2 words for you: Krabby Patties. So, in the episode Friend or Foe, we get a glimpse into their chummy past. After getting roasted by the class bullies again, Plankton and Krabs are out for sweet, sweet revenge. While plotting their epic comeback, they hit the carnival. Krabs spots a shiny penny on the ground, and like it the Holy Grail, he's totally mesmerized. He asks Plankton what it is, and Plankton, in his infinite wisdom, explains it's money and you can buy stuff with it. Mind blown, Krabs immediately spends his newfound treasure on balloons for Plankton, a kindness rarely seen from him later on in the series. Just like that, Mr. Krabs' lifelong obsession with money and wealth begins. So, Mr. Krabs is dreaming of more money, and Plankton is dreaming of more friends. How do they make it happen? Another 2 words: stinky burgers. One day they wander into this joint craving a burger, obviously, only to get kicked out. Why? Because they might drive away customers, according to the owner, Stinky. Turns out Billy and his cronies are regulars there, and Stinky doesn't want his precious clientele scared off. When they come back later, they see Stinky drive off in a limo, accidentally dropping $1 on the ground. Light bulb. Both Plankton and Krabs realize this is how they can get what they want, and all they have to do is come up with a great burger. They find this old trailer in the dump and, in a stroke of mad science genius, whip up the best-looking burger you've ever seen. They're all set to flaunt their culinary masterpiece to all those snotty kids, but Stinky Burgers, ironically, closes down before they can introduce their new Krabby creation. So, they test their burger on Old Man Jenkins, a family friend of Mr. Krabs. The burger is mouth-wateringly delicious right before it knocks Old Man Jenkins out cold. The next day's headlines: Burger poisons Old Man. Talk about bad press. Shelly and Eugene blame each other, and the two start brawling like 2 crabs in a bucket. They literally tear the recipe apart. In the chaos, Mr. Krabs gets flung into the wall, and Plankton ends up outside clutching a tiny, useless scrap of paper that says, "A pinch of chum." Meanwhile, Mr. Krabs' crash causes a cascade of ingredients to tumble into the patty batter, creating the magical secret formula for what we now know as the Krabby Patty. Let's just back up a moment. There's chum in the Krabby Patty? I thought it was a vegetarian burger. Where did the chum come from? This is super suspicious. So, this whole fight puts Krabs and Plankton on opposite sides, and Krabs still has the whole recipe besides the one missing ingredient, but that's not hard to remember, right? Plankton, on the other hand, although he helped to create the burger in the first place, has the short end of the stick. Not only that, Krabs got lucky with his culinary creation after the patty batter accident. So, Mr. Krabs and Plankton head back to school. Plankton, ever the mad scientist, has whipped up a chum-based patty with his lone ingredient. Meanwhile, Mr. Krabs struts in with his brand new Krabby Patties. To settle whose burger reigns supreme, they have the other kids taste them. You can guess who the winner is. From that day on, Plankton swears he will steal the Krabby Patty formula no matter what it takes. Okay, so essentially the entire reason Plankton hates Mr. Krabs' guts is because Krabs took away his one opportunity in school to gain respect and friendship. But instead of moving on and focusing on greener kelp fields, my dude's ego got so hammered he just couldn't let go of this grudge against his old buddy. But how does this tie into the chum bucket? Well, if Krabs needs chum in order to make his Krabby Patties, where does he get the chum from? The chum bucket is right across the street from the Krusty Krab. Pure coincidence? I think not. How many times has Plankton tried to steal the secret formula, and how many times has he just been flung back at his own Krabby restaurant? Usually screeching something along the lines of, "I went to college!" If I were Mr. Krabs, I would have found a way to whack the chum bucket off Bikini Bottom's map ages ago. I mean, it's not exactly great for business having a vegetarian fast food restaurant across from a carnivore's paradise. And if you look at the track record, that's usually what he does with any restaurant that opens up nearby, unless Mr. Krabs needs that dingy diner in order to stay in business himself. What if, to outsiders, Mr. Krabs and Plankton hate each other, but behind closed doors, they're actually still business partners, albeit begrudgingly? Suddenly, it makes a lot more sense why Krabs puts up with Plankton's nonsense. He needs the chum bucket in order for his own fast food to be successful, and we already know that Plankton is perfectly fine with cruel experiments and using others for his own benefit. There are no employees working at the chum bucket except for Plankton and his computer wife. Strange, don't you think? Maybe this is because they can't have any witnesses to what they get up to in that laboratory kitchen of theirs. Look, let me show you how good they are together. In the episode Best Frenemies, Mr. Krabs and Plankton actually work together to try and take down their new competitor called Kelp Shake, which is opened up right next to the Krusty Krab. These two work so well together, they even have matching spy outfits. How convenient. Almost like they've needed to do this before. At the end of the episode, with Kelp Shake closed down and no longer a source of competition, Plankton gets right back to his scheming to nab the secret formula. He and Mr. Krabs start their classic cat and mouse chase, laughing and shouting, "It's good to be home." The thing that makes me suspicious is the fact that although they claim they are arch enemies, there are many moments where they don't seem to hate each other at all, almost like their rivalry is a game to them. We see this in the episode A New Leaf, where Plankton claims he's done with evil schemes and has turned the chum bucket into a knick-knack shop. Mr. Krabs isn't buying it and trashes the place, only to realize Plankton's actually telling the truth. Feeling a bit guilty, Krabs takes Plankton to a carnival and decides to share the Krabby Patty formula. So, just like old times, they go to a carnival. If Mr. Krabs completely hated Plankton, why would he go to such lengths after potentially hurting his old buddy's feelings? Just when Plankton thinks he's hit the jackpot, he reveals the knick-knack shop was a ruse. But when he opens the formula, it's just a note, "Gotcha, love Krabs." Krabs, the sneaky crustacean, outsmarted him. Plankton ends up throwing the mother of all tantrums, screaming like a toddler who lost his ice cream. So, Krabs knew what Plankton was up to the whole time, yet he just went along with it in order to play a hilarious joke on him? Mr. Krabs doesn't seem to ever take Plankton seriously. Now, you might be thinking, but what about SpongeBob? Wouldn't our lovable, goofy goober have a huge problem with this? Personally, I don't think so. SpongeBob has proven many times that he's quite okay with mayhem and about as perceptive as, well, a sponge. He's done way crazier things than ignoring some strange business practices while flipping patties. In fact, he even opens another burger joint called the Flabby Patty Shack just to get Mr. Krabs and Plankton to work together. Of course, when Krabs and Plankton realize what SpongeBob is up to, they use their newly formed cooperation to repay him for messing with them the whole time. And Squidward? Well, he works reception, so he won't notice anything. Also, he's Squidward. I bet it drives Plankton absolutely bonkers that the Krusty Krab is always packed while his own diner can't hold on to a single customer. But what really makes him lose it? Knowing that the wildly popular Krabby Patty wouldn't even exist without his help. Essentially, his restaurant is just a front. It's not a diner at all. It's the local butcher. So, is it possible that although Plankton doesn't have the secret formula for the Krabby Patties, he does know its most secret ingredient? And that's how he managed to stay in business.